Welcome to another episode of the Holistic Sister Circle. This is the first time we've streamed live on all platforms. And today we have Dr. Siobhan with us. She acts as a voice for heart-led clinicians turned entrepreneurs who have found traditional business strategies to be lacking in producing desired outcomes. Through a personalized blend of strategic planning that leverages your unique strengths and her transformative embodiment practices, Siobhan guides in building a business that authentically reflects your essence and ensures the longevity of your success. Siobhan, I'm so excited to honestly talk to you about this because one of the things that I've realized and I've noticed just within our culture as business owners, and especially those who have been in business only for 1 to 3 years, one of the biggest things that I've noticed is we spend a lot of time leveraging other people's success as our own, or we take what other mentors are doing, and because we haven't really found our voice yet, we don't really know what we're doing, we force their mentality, we force their methods, we force literally everything that they've done, years of success, and then we get frustrated because it may not work the same for us.
Yes.
So the first question I would like to ask you is, what did that journey look like for you? Your first 1 to 3 years in business, what did that look like?
This is such an interesting question because I've reinvented myself 3 times online in this entrepreneurial journey. So when I first felt burnt out as a clinician back in 2014, I started into entrepreneurship and I monetized my degree. I was creating rehab and exercise programs for active agers. And I did that for a while. Things were going really well. I was making a lot of money, but I was doing everything I was told. I was ignorance on fire. I was reading books. I was exactly what you said, mimicking what others were doing and also doing exactly what my coaches told me without really having my own self in the game, without really having my own level of decision making. I was blindly following. I felt pretty burnt out at one point, almost like I couldn't keep up. And I just consistently felt really disconnected from myself. And so what do we often do when we feel disconnected? We look for another venture. We think, well, this isn't working. This can't be it. And so I pivoted into the affiliate marketing, network marketing space, which I'm still with that company now. But I built a team, a really beautiful team, and I got into coaching. And what I noticed is that the same thing that was happening to me in this business was the same thing that was happening to me in my first business. So much disconnect, mimicking the leaders, trying to do everything they were doing. I did not establish my own level of embodiment as my own business owner identity. So fast forward to 2021, which is when I put my stake in the ground and I said, I'm launching into the coaching business. Like, I just really fell in love with coaching my team. And I said, I've got a knack here. But I'll just say in 2019, I started coaching for free. And so I didn't just pop into the world in 2021. And in 2019, I was coaching for free. I had created some smaller mini courses and I said, I'm really good at this. So in 2021, when I reinvented myself for the third time, this business I did so differently. And this is when I developed my embodiment practice. So what that journey has looked like for me has been disconnect up until 2021. And so that's the whole reason my business exists, is so that we don't mimic other people. We understand how to find our voice and we develop our own level of groundedness in business.
Wow. And I love that you're so transparent with this story too, because we don't really talk about this. Like, we talk about our wins and we talk about what's exciting for us in business, but we don't actually talk about your business as the reflection of who you are right now. And the people that you attract are based on who you either are now or who you were up until 5 years ago. So It's just so amazing to see that you not only found your voice and found your footing, but you were giving yourself that grace to say, you know, even though I'm not the same person I was just a couple of years ago, I'm going to give myself grace to reinvent who this new person or new version of me is. Can you share with us, what did those new versions look like? Like, from, the first time you reinvented yourself to the second to the third, like who were you in those periods of time?
So I always felt like I was getting really close. Like from the first time to the second time, I felt like, oh, I'm closer. I'm closer to the thing that I'm supposed to be getting to, whatever that thing is. I almost didn't really know. But I can distinctly remember growing up, I felt such a visceral feeling around I'm made to do something big. I knew it. So when I wasn't experiencing that in my 9-to-5 job, I wasn't really experiencing that in my first venture. And in my second venture, I was on this discovery of getting connected to myself. So the different versions of me have all been a journey back to self. And so what that really looked like was different ways of building my business, not looking at what someone else was doing and saying, ooh, they've got this, let me go do that. Oh, this strategy is working for them, let me implement that. It really looked like that's not aligned for me, or that's not how I want to build my business, or I want to be more involved with my clients. There really became a point in the coaching world where everyone was just looking to scale and looking to take themselves out of their business. I'm quite the opposite. I enjoy what I do. I want to be more hands-on with my people. So when everyone was scaling into group, I'm still doing one-on-ones, which I love, because people who don't do well in groups and need more personal time, guess where they come? They come to me. And so recognizing that the way I do something has a purpose. And that's the difference between this business and those businesses that I had before. What I'm doing now reflects me, not what anyone else is doing in the market.
Yes, I love that. That's literally the true definition of owning your power, like really reclaiming your power. And I do feel like as women, we lose sight of that. We forget, honestly, how powerful we are, and we don't leverage our voices or put ourselves in positions where we feel confident in who we are and we're really grounded and rooted in this person that we are today. Now, can you share, what did that transition look like when you decided to say, I'm actually going to leave my 9-to-5? Like, that's hard to do. That's not an easy task. And I'm pretty sure, because even for me, when I left my 9-to-5, for those of you all who don't know, I have been building my business full time for literally now the past year. And when I left my 9-to-5, everything went wrong. Like, I left and everything went downhill, and then it started to come back up. But I had to really, I felt like I was on the bumpiest roller coaster ever. So what did that look like for you?
I'll be really honest. And I have shared this before on my social, but I don't know if people really catch this. I did not plan to leave my 9-to-5 when I did. It was unplanned. I was a contract physical therapist, and my contract had ended. And I thought, I'll take a break. I'll take 30 days and just get my head together, take a mini vacation, and spend some time building my business. And then after 30 days, it turned into 60 days. And then it was 90 days. And after 90 days, I said, I don't think I'm going back. And so that was August of 2023, August 12th to be exact. And I haven't been back. So
wow.
To say that this was planned, it wasn't. And let me just be clear, I do not recommend leaving your 9-to-5 unplanned. But this has been the biggest change of trust that I've ever experienced in my life. And trust and faith in God, and trust and faith in my ability to be able to do exactly what he said that I can do. And so, although not planned, it's working out quite well.
That is so beautiful. And I'm grateful that you answered the call. Because there's so many of us that we know that we need to be doing something different. And some of you may be watching now, like, man, I know I don't, like, this is not where I want to be. This is not where I'm called to be doing. But because of what's going on based on what we can see, we don't take that next step, or we're scared. And even if you still have your 9-to-5, like, that's okay. But are you progressively taking those steps to change, to do something different? So then that way, even though you still have it, you're still able to move yourself in that position and say, okay, like this is actually what I'm working towards for my future. Because at the end of the day, jobs can literally just cut you off just like that. And you have nothing. And
Yes.
my story was my story wasn't as I feel like it's free flowing as yours. uh, but so before I took that leap, I was actually working 3 contracts. I was 2 of them, we had decided, well, no, one of them, we both decided that, hey, like this wasn't just a good fit anymore. Like it was great when the time was there, but we were like, okay, we're just not going to renew. I wasn't feeling it. They weren't feeling it. The second one, from a mental capacity, I was like, this is just taking up too much of my mental space. Like I literally felt like I was so stressed. I felt like my emotions were all over the place and I just wasn't grounded. And I just said, I have to leave here. And then the third one, I remember when I first got the contract, I had only gotten it because I said, you know what? I just need to get out of debt. I just need to get out of this debt. And that's it. And I was in the shower one day and I was like, God, like, I need something to come through so I can just get out of this debt. And then once I'm done, I'm yours. Do you know that same day I wrote my last payment, I was fired?
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay, I surrender.
God.
Like that was it. And that was that was my stride. And did I know it was going to turn out that way? No. And I remember going back trying to apply for all of these jobs because I was freaking out.
Yeah.
Nothing was coming through. It was like decline, 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 decline. Like it didn't matter what I did. It wasn't working. And I was literally forced, like pushed into this direction. I said, okay, it's all in your hands at this point.
I was driving home from my last day. And on my way home, I thought to myself, I have this feeling this is the last time I'll be working as a clinician. And although I had only planned to take 30 days, maybe 60 days, there was something about that drive home that hit my soul where I thought, this is it. And I never imagined having some big vision of like, here's my letter of resignation. I never imagined that. I didn't actually know how it was going to happen. But because I didn't know how it was going to happen, I didn't quite plan for it. I really thought this was about how much money can I save up or how much money can I get my business to every single month. Here's what I have found. From August to December, my whole body was in fight or flight. Working as a clinician, treating a lot of patients, it's taken some time for my nervous system to even feel relaxed and be in my body and feel comfortable and actually breathe and exhale. So that took me some time. But what I noticed during that moment was that exactly what I needed to be able to leave my 9-to-5, I didn't have all of it quite put together. And that's just real talk. I did not have it all put together. And so what that has found me now is that I know exactly what to tell my clients to ensure that they can trust profits will continue to come. Because here's the thing. It's one thing to sign a client, sign another, but how do you know they're going to consistently come? Where do you get that faith? Where do you get that kind of trust? And it feels different when you know you have your job versus when your business is your main source. It's not the same. So there actually are some new embodiment practices that I developed very specifically for trust building as if as if your business is your only source. I know exactly what I need and how to lay out for my clients now for them to be able to trust that when their leap happens, it's designed. And they actually know how to design it. And they also know what metrics to look at. Because the truth is, so many of us are building our business and we're not building it in a way for it to sustain without our 9-to-5. We're building it in a way for it to only work with our 9-to-5. And so we don't develop certain levels of trust and faith that we need to have within ourselves and with God to be able to say like, this is working for me, and know without a shadow of a doubt. So we got to put some things in place so that transition can happen smooth. And I just want to be clear. I do not condone putting yourself in debt. I don't condone, putting your back against the wall, because I don't believe in building a business in scarcity mode. Although that can create a lot of money. However, that's not always sustainable. And now you're putting your nervous system in fight or flight to make money and you can't keep up. And that's not the kind of business that I build. And it's not the kind of business that I teach people. I was financially secure that if nothing came into my business for quite some time, I was going to be okay. Like, I had already had some things set up in place for it to happen, which is also what allowed me to kind of fall back and say, it's okay if 60 days turns into 90 and then beyond. And so here we are.
Right. No, and that is so, I'm glad that we're talking about this. I'm just going to let's look at Instagram real quick, see if anyone has any questions or anybody saying anything. And can anyone relate to our stories, or if you have questions, please let us know in the chat.
Someone said, I had no idea, Siobhan. That's amazing. Yeah. And the thing is, I have shared this, but this goes to show that on social media, you don't always hear everyone's story. You don't always capture every component. I know I've mentioned this on a live before, that this wasn't planned per se. It was very accidental. However, it wasn't planned by me, but it was absolutely planned by God. The way that everything was laid out and the way that I've been able to grow my business and serve my clients and help them develop a level of trust even before they transition. Because I did not have that level of trust. I had trust, but not that level of trust. So to be able to go through this experience and take my leadership and go, here's what we need to do inside of your business so that not only do you make money, but you sustain. And that's my issue with the industry right now is everyone's like, make money, sign clients. I'm like, I don't care about signing clients, one or two. We can't live client to client. This is a system. We've got to be able to put a system in place. And also not just a business system, but a personal system.
Yes.
And I very much tackle the human side of business, which is very important.
Yes. And just to go back for a second, because you said some really great points that I want to make sure that we uncover. The first one was you talked about your nervous system. Now, we may have people listening and watching, because again, we're streaming on multiple platforms. Plus, this also goes to our podcast platform on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, things like that. So people who are listening, maybe they're not necessarily clinicians. Maybe they're just people like everyday people that don't really understand your fight or flight moods and really working through that with your nervous system. Can you explain what that means?
Wow, what a challenge to bring that down outside of clinician speak. But here's how I can describe it. Oftentimes, we are looking to sign a client because we really want the money, because we think that the more clients we have, we're going to have safety within being able to leave. And so what that can do to our nervous system is put us into a very hyper anxious state of wanting to sign. So when clients aren't coming consistently or no one's reaching out, the nervous system, you start to feel jittery. Like you almost feel uneasy. It is a visceral experience of, well, I don't know where my next client's coming from. It's kind of, you're like looking around for your next hit, right? You're trying to find the person. Well, what ends up happening from a business perspective is when clients are not coming, we're looking to have this desperation and this reach out of like commission breath, as they say, right? Like we need the person. And so that nervous system is just our energy. And it's the way that we react and the way that we respond. Whereas when you calm your nervous system into a space of groundedness, meaning you don't need the sale, you don't need someone to sign up, you don't need anybody to reach out to you because you know what you do is of value and you provide a high level of service, and you can relax and feel very calm in that, where you're not feeling needy for the next person. That ability to relax and not have a visceral response of neediness is actually what brings clients. And that is the difference between somebody who is working a 9 to 5, they may or may not experience that neediness because they know they got money coming in from their 9 to 5. But the moment that you transition and there's no quote unquote stable income coming in, that can get your nervous system jolted to go, I need the next one. I need the next one. Where is my next person coming from? And so what I do now with my clients is actually we teach them to relax into a calm and grounded nervous system so that you don't need a sale. You don't need someone to reach out. You don't need someone to like the post. There's a level of detachment from you needing to look like an authority because you are the authority. And that is a level of trust within self where your nervous system doesn't react to what's happening outside of you. You have that control inside. So when you do leave, obviously you'll be set up with having your flow, having your system, having enough in the bank. But also you're not now looking for your next person to think that you need that person to survive.
Yes. Preach.
I've just spent so much time obsessing over why everyone knows the strategy, but it's not working for them, or why everyone knows what to do, but they're not taking action. I love this side of it because it's the human side and it is our expressive side, and we are creatives, but we're also coaches, and we're bringing work into this world to service other people. So that means we got to be right here with ourselves.
Absolutely. And I love that you really put those two in perspective. And I love when you said commission breath. I don't think I've ever heard that before. But it's so true.
Yeah.
And I know, again, I can only really speak from my experience, but I know when it was that time for me to leave my 9 to 5 and I started to transition, not only did I have to have trust in myself, but I also had to put myself in position to receive. Because I realized with me, I had this mentality that I could just do it on my own. I can figure it out. I. And what you fail to realize, what I failed to realize was just because you're leaving your job, it doesn't mean you don't need a team. Like you still need to be putting yourself around people, around community, around people going in the direction that you want to go in. So when we hide behind a computer and turn and face our desk and we just, pound out projects, that does not create the human experience. It does not create the soul alignment. It does not create the community. And that's really what helps pushes us forward.
Yes.
You just have a different level of showing up when you know that you have people depending on you to show up. So I would love, to kind of transition for a second. I know you had talked about the nervous system, but if you're going into this where you're like, okay, I know that there's something on the other side of this that I need to accomplish. I know there's more for me. What are some practical steps that you would give someone who is looking to transition from clinician to entrepreneur? What are those practical steps that you could give them to lead them on their journey today?
Let me say this one thing because it came to me and I said it's for someone watching. Treat your business like it's already paying you full time. Because if you don't start treating your business like it's already paying you full time, it'll be okay not to show up. It'll be okay not to put out that piece of content. It'll be okay not to even write your content for the day. It'll be okay for you not to reach out to people and make connections. It will always be okay for you not to do something because it's not paying you, quote unquote. But the truth is, you have to start treating it like it is paying you right now. And that's not a practical step, but how you make that practical is actually by having a checklist. What exactly do I need to move my business forward every single day? I call this daily non-negotiables. And it's something I establish with all my clients who are working a 9 to 5, because not all of them do. But what are your daily non-negotiables? When you have a short day at the clinic or whatever job you might have, and maybe you're done at 3, then there are going to be tasks that you have more energy to complete on that day versus you might be done 6 or 7, depending on what kind of work you do. Now, you might only be able to get one task done, but you know that you're going to move the needle in your business every single day because you have daily non-negotiables. And for me, it is all around your energetics. What do you have the energetic availability for? And it's designed that way. So you're never feeling like, oh, I only got one thing done. It's like, that was the one thing I needed to move my business. And it's not like, oh, I didn't do this today. It's like, okay, great. That wasn't even on my list today. I had something else to get done. It's like, you know exactly what you are doing so you can feel good about the progress that you're making. So I have a checklist. It is a 6-step checklist that literally is like box by box by box. What are the things I need to do in my business? Because not everything is important. And depending on where you are in your business, certain things are more important than other things. And what I've found is that people get stuck on trying to implement something that they're not ready for yet in business. And that often creates a disconnect. And they're like, well, why isn't it working? Well, none of the other boxes that need to precede that have been checked. So when you have the checklist, now you know what are the things I have in place. So whatever boxes are left unchecked, now you can say, okay, I get to hyper focus on this. And now my daily non-negotiables on the days that I have more time, I'll do these boxes. And on the days that I have less time, I can do this box, right? And so you're never feeling like you don't have enough time or you don't know what you're doing.
Can we link that checklist to this episode too? Because I'm just absolutely. Like, okay, checklist. Like, people would love that. People would love to be a part of that. Wow, this is really, really great information. Because I know even for me, I mean, still to this day, there are times where I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I know and I remember, just starting out, all I knew was this was different. I didn't know what aligned with what I needed to do next. I actually learned that through, honestly, meditation. Like, I had to really be grounding myself in that position and really saying, like, okay, what is this? Like, where are we going with this? And through meditation, I was able to see like the next step. And I would say sometimes in this process that I've personally learned was there is a time and a place to have a coach.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to someone who maybe they're in a position where they're like, I gotta have a coach, I gotta have a coach. Or maybe they're in a position where they're like, man, I've worked with a coach, but it wasn't as successful as I hoped it would be. Because how would you just walk someone through that just to make sure that the aligned time makes sense to have someone meet them in that middle to progress them along their journey? Or when should they stand still?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You're going to really force me to put out this post that I've been working on around how do we decide when it's time to hire and how do you pick who's for you? And this is why I say it's so good for coaches to be very clear on how they help people. So that way your people can go, I don't need you. Oop, I need you, right? They can actually know who is for them. So here's what I say. If you are completely brand new, you're going to need to have some foundational knowledge of business, marketing, and sales. You will have to understand and invest time and a little bit of money. And when I say a little bit, is because you can get courses that are below a few $100 that can teach you some of this foundational material. Once you have a foundational understanding of business, now it's like, well, what business do I want to create? Now we're getting into the crafting of bringing your idea and your life experience into a body of work online to help coach other people. Maybe you even do some kind of certification, which is great. But from there, you're going to need someone to show you how what you just learned foundationally, that accumulation of knowledge, how to apply nuances for your business specifically. And how you determine if someone is for you or not for you. It doesn't mean coaches are bad. That's a whole nother podcast. It just means someone is not fit for you. Let's just say that. I look at, why do I want to invest in this person? Why do I feel the pull? Two things. Do I feel the pull to invest with this person because I think they have something I don't have or I don't know? And only if I invest with them will I get this one result? Or does this person have a perspective on business and how to run their business, and I want to learn from them and implement their teachings? Those aren't the same. One of the things my clients always tell me is, you really show me how to think. And that's what I have found, is that people are investing, wanting someone to tell them exactly what to do, and then they go do it. But what I found to be most successful is when you invest with someone who helps you to think about your business and apply your nuances. And that's why my work is one-on-one, because I'm very intimate with my people in helping them think and shift their lens on things within their business. So there's nothing wrong with investing to learn a new strategy, but don't invest thinking that that strategy is going to be the rocket ship to take your business off the ground, because there's always work involved. And people are getting so good at their marketing that they're really playing to the lack part of us, the part of us that thinks we're not good enough, the part of us that thinks we might not be cut out for this, or that we're missing something. When really what we need is to sit with the discomfort of doing a system and a task over and over and over again, so we can start seeing results. And so that's when you want to invest with a coach who helps you shift your perspective and think, and helps you implement the nuances for your business to really take off.
Yeah, I love that 100%, because we're in a time right now where everyone wants to be a coach, or everyone claims that they're a coach. And I think it's so important that you have that discernment and you know why you're going to someone. Because I know for me, when earlier on, and just recently is when it clicked for me, I want to say maybe like 8 months ago when I started the podcast is really when it clicked for me, because I've had other business ventures prior to this. But I remember being in a position where I'm like, okay, what does this person have that I don't have? And how can I make sure that I implement exactly what it is that they're doing? And then what they were doing wasn't really sitting right with me. So then it felt forced. And because it felt forced, I didn't continue the journey.
Yep.
And then I was inconsistent. And now I'm super frustrated because I spent all this money and I'm inconsistent and nothing is working.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I said, okay, and actually my partner, he told me this too. He's like, B, you have to have the discernment to know when to listen to a coach and when not to. Because just because someone says something, it doesn't mean that you just go off and change everything that you know to be true and then do everything that this person says. What it means is that you take what you need right now and you pocket the rest for later. And I, for whatever reason, was having a hard time differentiating the two. And I think a lot of that came from my background as well. And I was in network marketing. It was like you have your leader and you do whatever the leader says and you follow the leader, follow the leader, follow the leader. And then when I decide to leave that industry and step out on my own, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's no leader. Like,
no leader.
I literally fell apart.
I'm the leader.
So I'm like, I can totally relate to this.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I developed that tough skin and had to walk on that own journey by myself where I said, okay, this is what I need. This is what I don't need. This is what's actually going to help fuel us and get us here. Now, before we wrap up, I want to just check and make sure anyone has any questions or comments or anything they would love to share with us too.
Someone said, so true. I tell myself, work on it daily, even if I only get 10 to 15 minutes to complete it. Yes.
Absolutely.
Definitely a strong topic to speak on. Yep.
Because I feel like when you do that, you train your mind to stay in the game.
Yes.
And that's, I mean, at the end of the day, life is a game. And it's like you're playing to win or you're not playing. Like, it's just
or you're not playing. I have a client right now who messaged me today and she said, I see why people quit. And I said, tell me more. And she's hitting an area of discomfort. And she's like, I'm not quitting. She goes, but I see why people quit. And I said, that's so important for you to recognize and understand, because if you don't, then you're not going to know what to look for. And so instead of allowing that discomfort now to make her not work on her business for days at a time, she's like, well, how can I reground? Look at my daily non-negotiables. Here's what I do today. And so there's no time lost. It's just, here's where I pick up. And what I find is that the barrier to being a coach online is so low that people might have an expertise, might have a life experience, but that doesn't make you a coach. You have to be able to develop results for people. And one of my specialties is actually helping people develop trust that they can make profit. And that comes through the offer, which means that you yourself have to know how your expertise solves the problem. And so don't let the barrier to entry being so low make you think it's easy to get the result, because there is a lot of discomfort and there's so much emotion that comes up that it never came up in your 9-to-5. You can go to work, not feel worthy, not feel confident, not feel deserving. Like, it doesn't matter how you feel. You're going to get paid. It's not linked to you even overcoming any of that. Even if you went to work and quote unquote didn't provide any value today, it doesn't matter. You're still getting your check. When we enter into entrepreneurship, we're in that space where we got to be real grounded in the value we bring to the marketplace. And when you have a process for that, that's how you can trust profit, that you're going to consistently get paid. And through that, we develop safety. And our nervous system feels safe because we know we're of value. We're standing in our authority, not trying to look like one.
And it's so different to have authority when you've gone through some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you had to go through that to get to the other side. And that's when you know that you know, and nobody can change
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really when you truly awakened on this journey.
Yes.
Because it does. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of discomfort. I was actually on a call with someone a few days ago. And one of the things that she said was, it was so profound, but she said she was on a call with the client. And she said, okay, what do you need to do to hit your goal? And she said, I have 30 days or I have to go back to work. She said, within these 30 days, my feelings don't matter.
Woo!
My emotions don't matter. Because at the end of these 30 days, it'll be another emotion that I'm feeling. Why? Because I'm an entrepreneur. You're always going to have this pit in your stomach or not feel like you have enough, or like because you're in business. Like, that's just, it's part of it. And being able to walk, and I always imagine or think about this of just like picking up your cross.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you still got to pick it up. You still got to keep walking. You still have to keep doing the day in and day out things that are going to get you to where you know you should be, regardless of what it looked like yesterday. Because today is different.
It's so different. But I also do believe that it won't always feel that way. It won't always not feel like enough. And I would say what I've found is that takes a level of embodied depth of self.
Mm-hmm.
That takes a tree in the forest, that it doesn't matter what comes around, that tree, that one tree is not falling down. And it takes something. And I don't, at least for me, I don't believe that feeling has to stay there of like, it's not enough or it's uneasy or we can't trust our profit. Can it be gone any day? Yes. Like, anything can happen, right? We also have to be aware, but I also don't think we have to live in the awareness that it can be gone or that it can be over. And I think that's such a gray distinction. So for me, it's like, I trust in the awareness. Like, I trust in my wisdom, not just of my journey, but my ability to help people who have been stuck get into momentum and then make profit and consistently make profit. And so once I have my process, I'm like, this is what I get to replicate. Then it becomes a system that I can trust.
Absolutely. And then when you have that system, you take the feeling and the emotion out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you developed something that actually works and it was proven to work over and over, and now anybody can do it. So I certainly appreciate it. I literally could talk to you all night about this, but for the sake of time, I would love to know, if anyone has anything to share in the comments, let us know before we wrap up. for tonight.
I see a couple people on. If you guys have questions, just drop them in the chat. Definitely will.
Yeah, let us know.
Yep.
Let us know. And if not, for us to just end off tonight, Siobhan, what is some wisdom that you can give our people? Again, not solely on clinicians, because we have other people that listen to the show too, but overall, some wisdom, you've already shared your practical steps. So just some wisdom for them, anyone who is looking to take that next step into entrepreneurship.
The best wisdom I can really give is to teach your body to sit with discomfort and to teach yourself to take action in discomfort. And that will serve you, because once you can sit in discomfort without producing a result, then you know you're going to, on the other side, get a result. But you've got to be able to sit in discomfort first without getting a result. That is the definition, in my opinion, of entrepreneurship. We're willing to work on our craft, how we serve other people. We're willing to work at it because it's what we feel called to do. So there's no turning around. This just is what it is. So that means that part of our territory is sinking into that discomfort. So show yourself that you can sit with discomfort, practice sitting in discomfort. And I always say another practical tip is do other things that are uncomfortable in your personal life, whether you go eat by yourself or you go to the movies by yourself or you take a different way to work. You do something, you park on the other side of the parking lot, you do something so that your nervous system can know what it feels like to be in discomfort, but also can still have a visual awareness of being safe.
That was some good wisdom right there. Let me write down what you said and put it on my wall just real quick.
Yeah, it matters.
Well, Siobhan, it has been a pleasure having you on the Holistic Sister Circle tonight. We are so grateful for your presence, for your wisdom, for just you really living and walking your truth and being able to not just share, but also cultivate the union that you are. We're so grateful for that. If anyone is looking to reach out to you, what does that process look like?
You can find me on the gram at Dr. Siobhan France, SIOB as in boy, HAN, last name France like the country. You can also find me on Facebook at Siobhan France. Feel free to shoot me a DM. And then the link in my bio is that checklist that I talked about. So you can make sure that how you're spending your time is exactly what you need to do that's going to help you make that leap from 9 to 5 to full time. Or maybe you're already full time, but things don't feel stable. They feel rocky. And even if you are not a clinician, this checklist will still work for you.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for tuning in, everybody.
Thank you so much.
And Dr. Siobhan, thank you
so
for
much.
your time.
An honor.
Queen, thank you so much for tuning in. It truly warms our heart that you're taking the time out of your day to connect with us. If you'd like to connect with our guests further, you can find their information located in the description section of this episode. And if you found this episode helpful, share with another queen. And don't forget to connect with the Holistic Sister Circle on Instagram and Facebook. And until next week, stay blessed. Mwah.